Welcome along, one and all, to PSGL Season 37 PSF3 Round 12, brought to you by GT Omega. 29 drivers have contested this season of PSF3, and 11 rounds of ferocious action has cut the number of title contenders down to 3. The first of those contenders is clinical, opportunistic. He cuts the image of a championship driver, NLR Coolman. The second, fierce, tenacious, and unyielding, EVE Finlay. And the third is classy, calculated, and in recent rounds dominant, CPI Fraser. Just 7 points separates those three drivers going into this, the final race of the season, and we have one of F1's definitive venues to decide a champion. The Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos will bring this enthralling season to its conclusion. My name is Daka, and I'll be helping you through the action as always, and alongside me also, as always, is Ghost. How are you on this extraordinary evening?
Oh, I'm doing well, Daka. I'm doing well, Daka. I have myself muted, as is typical on such an important day. But I'm doing great. I cannot wait. This is an absolutely fantastic race we have in store. That was a beautiful description of our three protagonists, by the way. But it's going to be Fraser, fittingly, who is first on a lap here through turns 1, 2, and 3. So clinical through there, going straight over the curbs as you have to do. It's so easy to lose the rear out of turn 1 and 2, but he manages it perfectly fine. Now turn 4, high speed, 5th gear in turn 4 in fact, and all the way around he goes, just about staying within track limits, and now down towards or up towards turn 6 and 7. Very nice through there, almost full throttle, if not full throttle, through both of those two corners this year. And now the slower, more technical section of the track, in towards the last couple of corners. Oh, a little bit too much on the curb there. Lost the rear a little bit on the exit, but now down towards the final braking zone on the circuit. Cuts across the curb, a little front left lockup, but not too detrimental, I don't think. And all the way to the line through these last few corners that are completely flat out. Hug the inside of the wall, and the first time on the board is a 107.237 from the man who's won, I believe, 3 of the last 4 rounds. But Coolman, the championship leader and fellow championship protagonist, beats him, but they're both beaten by EVE Leonardo. What can Finlay do across the line? It's going to be, an invalidation, in fact, for Finlay. It was a 107.4 though, so quite a way off.
I put so much effort into that introduction, and we get 5 seconds of silence to follow it. Nevertheless, we'll continue.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, it happens. We'll have a look, though, as times rapidly come in. Interlagos is always such a fast and furious qualifying session, so expect times to come in rapidly. ML Slash is just heading into that final sector with Leonardo, yes, the only driver under the 107 mark, 106.993. He has been so rapid throughout this season, and could have been a title contender had a few things went differently. Slash goes through into P number 4. Understandably, I think we are going to be paying a lot of attention to our 3 title contenders throughout this session up to this point, and it is the man who is P1 in the standings who has had the best start. It was a bit of a scruffy lap from Fraser and not a valid lap at all from Finlay, so NLR Coolman, who has led the championship for the vast majority of the season, very solid start then, and the other 2 are the ones with work to do.
Absolutely, Fraser all the way down in 7th, but as always in PSF3, the time's so close, especially on a track like this, so short, so few places to actually gain a lot of time, and well, that's certainly being proved here. Nick into the pits, so no time from him. In fact, locks the rears as he enters the pits, nearly ends up in the barrier, but the game's instant reset, saving him from an embarrassing end to his session. Yeah, Leonardo, like you say, things have turned out differently, and he'd been able to make a few more races. It would have been a 4-way battle, I'm sure of that. But as it is, he's looking to regain some of the lost dignity over the course of this season, and he's doing exactly that at the moment. Pole position, the only driver in the 106s. Coolman not too far behind, but so close all the way down, and just a tenth. If Fraser just gains a tenth of a second, he'll suddenly be 1 row behind Coolman.
I love this. Out of the pits, Fraser, tracking him immediately. Coolman. I know it's probably not the most significant order of play, but it's almost as if these two are marking each other, staring each other down. They had their duel on the first laps, which Coolman, of course, ended up with the faster time. Fraser, though, you can see how close the margins are. As you said, he is only about 17 hundredths of a second slower, but 5 places behind, and that execution is going to come into play so much here at Interlagos. It is just a 67-second lap. The pole times, you could expect them to dip further into the mid 106s. I've pegged the expected pole time as a mid to high 106. I think the pole in F2 was about a 6.6 or 6.7. So we'll see if that is going to be the case. Fraser and Coolman, first one's out, first one's up. They are going to head around again. Leonardo is the time to beat at the moment of 106.993, as 2 of our 3 title contenders now get on their way. For Fraser, it looked like a bit of a scruffy run through the Senna S. Coolman picking up the throttle behind. Let's compare these first sector times. You should be in the mid to high 16s here. Fraser, it was a bit of a scruffy run. He does a 16.7. Coolman behind. Didn't actually get that sector time as I went on board with him. What was Coolman's first sector?
He's 300ths down on his previous best.
Right, so NLR Coolman in the mix, but not quite finding the time that he had before. Of course, the margin's so small around here, and we know that Fraser has time to find in this middle sector. He did make a bit of a mistake here at this corner. Brico de Pato turns it in. This time misses the apex a little bit, gets a little bit of understeer, but manages to rotate, gets a good exit. CPI Fraser, what is the middle sector time? It is faster, but only marginally. Coolman is finding more time, nearly a tenth up. He may go fastest at the moment, but for Fraser, the lap hasn't come together just yet. He comes up towards the line, takes the shortest route he can to the line. CPI Fraser, watch the clock here. Where's it going to be? It's going to be 5th at the moment then, 107.1962, but Coolman does in the end go fastest. He goes further into the 106s, and the championship leader is stamping his authority on this Brazilian event at the moment. NLR Coolman then goes to the top of the timesheets. I think Zviadek is on a good lap further back. Currently P11, the slowest of the valid times, but his first 2 sectors were pretty fast in the end, though. Only goes into P10 or 107.4. Expect times to come in rapidly then. Coolman, though, does get his campaign off to such a good start at the start of this final round, but Frantic Jashorny, my apologies, goes fastest on a 16.93. Oh, I can barely get my words out. It is such a lot of anticipation here tonight, but Frantic does go fastest. He has been so rapid throughout this season, but you can see as these times come in, the times are not being slashed away at, they are just being chipped away, with Frantic going to the top of the timesheets now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the sort of thing you expect around this circuit, just chipping away at those times ever so slightly. You're only really going to find a big improvement around here if you messed up your first attempt. And while Leonardo, I'm surprised he came straight into the pits, because he was purple in sector 1 and he was improving more in the middle sector. Looked like he was going to take pole and then went straight into the pits. So I'm assuming he must have gone a little bit wide at the final corner. And well, that's the type of margins that we're dealing with here. A tiny bit wide, lose half a tenth of a second, suddenly that's lap over. So this is, I mean, what an intense way to have our final qualifying session here in Interlagos. We've got several drivers on in-laps at the moment, but Spicer again not able to get a lap on the board, and it was quite a poor first sector by his standards. We're used to seeing Spicer towards the front of the field, and well, his first sector only a 16.9, which is some 2/10 off the front runners. So a lot of work to do for the Austrian, which is surprising.
And Spicer comes into this round with 2 consecutive pole positions in the last 2 rounds in Monza and at Lusail. So, yeah, a lot of work to do for Spicer, who is something of a one-lap specialist, it must be said. And another driver, he has, if you look at it, he has DNF'd 4 races this season. He's another driver that could have potentially been right in that championship hunt. I imagine there's a lot of drivers ruining missed opportunities throughout this season. Ultimately, though, we are just 3 separated by 7 points. One thing we have neglected to mention up to this point, and it's something that we discussed at the end of the stream last week, was Finley's penalty in Qatar, because we were talking about it potentially being a 3-way fight, but with Finley being a little bit further off the back. He finished 4th in that Qatar race after a 3-second penalty. That was ultimately removed by the stewards, as we thought would happen, because he was forced off the track in the end by Chris Rebel. So the stewards did see it, and that's brought him within 5 points of the Championship League. That's a development that cannot be overlooked, because now we have such a marginal fight involving these 3 contenders.
We really do. It's Coolman on 91 points, Finley on 86, Fraser on 84. It is so close. All Coolman needs to do, in theory, is to finish in 2nd place. Finley can still usurp him from there, but he would need to win the race with fastest lap and get pole position. And, well, the way he's going at the moment, he's down in 12th in this qualifying session. He doesn't look like he's getting close to pole yet, but who knows, as Leonardo is improving in the middle sector, but a huge slide out the final, well, I say the final corner. It's not technically the final corner, but the last real corner on the circuit, and that's going to be lap over for him for, I believe, the 2nd lap in a row that he has messed up at the last braking zone.
Yeah, and abandons another attempt. So he remains at the moment in P3 with his first banker lap. So no improvement from there on as we continue. I think Moikuli's just come over the line. He's done a 107.283, goes into P number 9. Let's see what else, though. I think Coolman's come over the line. He's just starting a flying lap.
Fraser nearly into the barrier out the final real corner on the circuit there. It was just trying to give it a little too much. He was purple in Sector 1, and then Sector 2 he lost everything, so he was just trying to throw his car around that corner. It didn't quite work out.
Oh, Frank Deshorny is gone. That's out of turn number 4. The man who's currently a provisional pole, it looks like he's dropped it all on his own, I think. We're watching here. Zviadek's just come past it. There he is, in the barriers, out of turn 4, heading into turn 5 at the Desira del Lago complex. So that is the man who currently occupies pole position, 4th place in the championship, out of qualifying at the moment, and oh so vulnerable with the times so close. Just to note on top of that, EVE Finley has done a good lap, put himself into contention when a 107 flat. That's very important for Finley, who was having a rough session up to this point. But Franek now gone, and well, how many drivers does this open the door for now, Ghost?
Yeah, absolutely. Huge pressure lap for Finley there to get himself onto the 2nd row when he was so far down. So he'll be delighted with that. A little gutted that he's so close to pole, but he can join the club in that front. 4 drivers within a 10th. But yeah, certainly opens the door. But it's so difficult to find those marginal improvements. We may have all of these drivers within a 10th easily of that pole time, but finding that time is quite another matter at this circuit. And we'll see if any of them are up to the challenge. Slash is currently on a lap, I believe, but wasn't improving in Sector 1, and I don't think he's actually continuing this lap. He is on medium ERS mode, so I don't think he's actually on this lap here.
So Slash bailing out then currently sits in position number 5, just under a 10th of a second off the top time. Actually, his 2nd sector time was fast, but he has just invalidated, I think. Heading through Mergulio there. So Slash, in the end, not going to be an improvement. He is going to dive into the pit lane with every other car in the pits. It feels like this session has just been an explosion of action, and then a bit of a lull as everyone regroups. So we look towards the final runs now. Frank Deshorny occupying that pole position, but all eyes still on the championship contenders. Coolman has had a brilliant session up to this point, currently 2nd. Finley has recovered from a poor start to the session in 4th, and Fraser, with a bit of work to do, he's had a scruffy session so far, currently 7th. So it's advantage Coolman at the moment, but all change can still happen, because I believe there are plenty of drivers that have the pace to get right up there with that pole position time.
Yeah, definitely. Not often you see that, by the way, in league racing. Every single car in the pits in qualifying, but I guess they're all waiting for the very last moment to try and get the most out of the track that they can. But yeah, Spicer did improve, by the way. He got a lap on the board and he's up to P8, but still quite a way down on the front runners. 2.5 tenths doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the standings and how close everyone ahead of him is to the leader, that is quite a margin. And Spicer's got his work cut out to get 3 poles in a row here. I'd certainly say he's an underdog at this stage in the session, but you know, you can't ever count out the guy who's, like you say, been a one-lap specialist all season. Matisse is going to be the next to start a lap at the moment. Just coming across the line now to go through turn 1. Currently sitting in P12. Can he get himself further up the grid? We have seen him further up previously this season, but today he's struggling a little bit.
Yes, but only 3.5 tenths off that pole position time, so that can tell you it can't change. It wasn't the best first sector. His line through the Senna S, I don't think, was optimal. Matisse, though, continuing on at the moment, P12, just 100th of a second from Moy Cooley in front of him. It is inevitably a qualifying session of such small margins and with so much on the line. Less than 2 minutes on the clock. The provisional pole setter will take no further part in this session. Does that leave the door open? We shall see. Matisse circulating now, heading up towards Jun Shao at the end of the lap. He is finding some time, but not much. 700's up, straightens up the car, gets on to that throttle pedal, but is it going to be enough? It may only be up 1 spot ahead of Moy Cooley unless he can gain an awful lot of time on the run up to the line. TFT Matisse, currently 12th, goes into 7th in the end.
Daka, watch Spyros. Spyros in P13 is improving by nearly 4 tenths through the middle sector. Matisse is out. He's gone straight on at turn 1 by the looks of it, but Spyros could be a surprise challenger for pole. He comes to the line. Oh, it's not quite enough. But look at that. He's within a tenth of pole, and yet he's 5th. That is how close this session is. More people coming over the line, but no one really improving a huge amount. Nick in P12 is a tenth up, but he's bailed out in sector 2. We've got Fleddy coming through the final few corners now, a tenth and a half up, but not going to be enough for challenge for pole. He might get into the within a tenth club, but we'll see as he comes across the line. It's going to be a 107.0 and not quite within a tenth, but up to P7 for Fleddy. And well, yeah, I'm just looking at the time stacker. No one in these top runners is improving. Franek, despite crashing out of this session some 6 or 7 minutes ago, might still manage to get pole.
Coolman invalidated his final lap. Finlay is 2 tenths down. He's not going to improve on that time for the moment. Let's keep an eye on TPI Fraser. Again, I will focus on the title contenders. He is up, but only just, and he does need to find a little bit more if he wants to put himself into top contention. As Viadic comes over the line, that's just 13th for him. Spyros, who's already circulated, so we're looking at CPI Fraser. Needs a monster improvement then, but he cannot find it. He stays and P10, and then Spicer goes third, just shy of Coolman's time. On to the second row of the grid. Leonardo is not improving. Slash trying to find time out there. Fleddy is not improving. He is past his prime in this session. I think it is just Slash that is out there on a fast lap at the moment, and he's marginally down. Can he find a good run through Jun Shao? Gets on to the throttle pedal, and he will bring qualifying this season to a close. Franek's time has stood the test of time in this qualifying session. Despite crashing out, he may well take pole position up to the line. Slash 7th it is in the end. Did not find an improvement, and that is it. An incredibly hectic and incredibly close qualifying session ends with the man who, with 5 minutes to go, bend the car out of turn 4, but he does hang on to that pole position, and I think you could see, Ghost, how nervy it was out there.
Goodness me. It was that 7 cars within a tenth. It's absolutely incredible qualifying session. It is Franek Shoshone who takes pole, but Coolman will be perfectly happy with the front row. And then we've got Spicer and Leonardo on row 2. Finley down on row 3 in 5th place, but Fraser all the way down in 11th, but don't count him out. We've seen him win from that far down before this season, so I wouldn't I wouldn't say he is done yet, far from it, but this is going to be an absolutely crazy race. Everyone's so close. I cannot wait, Daka.
Yeah, and Interlagos is a track of tiny margins, as we have said already on multiple occasions throughout this broadcast. Now we look towards the Grand Prix, and you mentioned earlier with the oh my goodness,
Wow.
these conditions. I'm not sure. I actually don't know if it's set to reflect what will happen in the restart. Remember, this race won't be the real one, but that is quite a ferocious amount of rain. So if that's anything to go by, anything could happen. But yeah, thinking about this, the Frantic taking that pole position means the point for pole position is off the board for any of the title contenders. So that does change the permutations. Actually, through the week, Ghost very kindly sent me a sheet with all of the mathematical possibilities in play. But the pole position point being taken out, it does change the order of play and removes quite a lot of those possibilities. So already, just after the qualifying session, we're looking at a very different scenario in this championship ahead of the race.
Yeah, we certainly are. I'll just run you through run you through a few. Goodness me!
Oh, it's a big night.
Of some of those possibilities. So Coolman, if he wins the race, obviously he wins the title. But if he finishes in second place, he now cannot be caught, since neither Finley nor Fraser, but particularly Finley, did not get pole. So Coolman needs top two to win the title for sure, without any doubts. But he can win the title from further back. But Finley and Fraser, essentially, if Coolman finishes fourth or third, they both need to win the race. But Coolman fifth and below, that's when things start getting more interesting, and Finley and Fraser can finish a little lower than first and still win the title. But of course, they also have to fight with each other. Although if Fraser's so far back, he's going to need a little bit of drama, I would have to think, and also perhaps some of those incredible overtaking moves that we've seen him pull off from further down on the grid before. And well, there's no better time to do it than today. So we'll see if that happens. But if we do keep this weather, that is going to make things a lot more difficult for him, I would have thought.
Yeah, well, of course, as is usually the case with F1 League racing on this game, it is dominated by DRS trains. There isn't a huge amount of DRS on this circuit, actually, but on the run down the main straight and the run down the Retro Posta in the first sector, that means that in the end, yeah, you do get a race that tends to stay all together, but in the rain, that is completely thrown out the window, and we haven't had much wet running this season, so of course, you're always going to get some drivers that specialise in that condition more than others. So that qualifying order may not be very representative at all, and if that is the case. Of course, I do think it is set it isn't set to match the weather in the previous session. So we will get completely dynamic and random weather ahead of this next restart. But Interlagos is a track where rain can be very prominent, and there is a much higher likelihood of it than at most other circuits.
Yeah, definitely. Seen rain plenty of times at this circuit. Changeable conditions as well are one thing that can plague this track quite often. Well, I say plague. Depends on your outlook of it. As a commentator, it's great, but some drivers really do not take to those kinds of conditions well. So we'll see how it ends up being when the session gets underway. But yeah, I think I haven't really seen a wet race so far since I've started commentating with PSGL. So it's going to be interesting to see where the drivers shake up in terms of wet weather pace if the rain does indeed return. Daka, have there been wet races so far this season before I came along?
Not that I can remember. I honestly don't think there has been. You missed the first 4 rounds, and yeah, I can't remember any wet racing. I think we had a wet qualifying session, but not a wet race. So, if anything, that these guys are a complete unknown quantity in those conditions. And as you said, some drivers really do struggle when the track is laden with moisture. We shall see, but in the event of a dry race, that is a very different Grand Prix ahead of us. I have been watching other races throughout PSGL throughout this week, and one thing I do note, because I know you like to take a bit of pride in trying to guess what tyres drivers will start the race on. I think this is a track where most drivers tend to try and start on the hards, actually, that I found, at least in my research for this race.
Yeah, I'm not as certain with this track, purely because I haven't really raced on it yet on this game. But I would default to your judgment on that, Dakar. I think, at the same time, in previous titles, starting on the hards has been fairly popular. This track has been a bit of an enigma in strategy, though, over the last few years. Whereas most tracks usually have had the same strategy year on year. Brazil has been one of those where it has changed. I remember a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, it was soft medium was the way to go, or medium soft. And the softs were actually an incredible race tyre around here. And there are some tracks where that is the case on this game. So I do wonder if anyone will bring out the softs at any point. But yeah, if you say that most people usually start on hards in this track, then I'm willing to go with that, and we'll say that's what we're expecting.
Just for clarity, I have not turned a single lap myself on this game, so maybe I'm not the right guy to come to for that. We are now beginning to get loaded in, and again, I think we do need to discuss the state of play in this championship. You mentioned how that where the permutations are and how the absence of the pole position point for our contenders does change things, but you'd have to say after the qualifying session, Coolman will be delighted, Finlay I imagine will be relieved, Fraser will be frustrated, I think, ahead of this race.
Yeah, I saw him saying in the Discord chat, or the paddock, he was saying 4 tenths off in a title decider, I don't deserve this. But, you know, I think he's being harsh on himself. He is usually right up there in qualifying. Even when he says that a track has not been his strong point, he has usually been up there anyway. But today has really been kind of the first indication of real weakness in qualifying from Fraser, and yeah, we'll see what he can do about it, whether he can deal with it. It does look dry, so that'll give him more opportunities, but it's an interesting dilemma for him, being that far back. He's got to send it, but he can't be too aggressive. He's got to be a little bit careful, because otherwise he can end up taking himself even further out of the battle.
You can't expect cars running in close proximity, and yes, incidents are a real possibility, it must be said, at this track with everyone running so close together, typically at Interlagos, which is what we are about to be treated to in Brazil. We have 5 lights! And for the final time this season, they leave the grid. It's a great start from second place. Coolman drawing alongside Frank Deshawney towards turn 1. For once, a pole position this season is not converted, and Coolman, the championship leader, leads. Up alongside Frank Deshawney is Leonardo as they fell to the way through behind. A gap has opened up in the midfield, but Coolman does get himself into the lead, and they are all going to go dueling and up behind. So Leonardo trying to get through on Frank Deshawney on the inside of turn 4, does get in front. Spicer is looking his way through, and Franek has fallen back on this first lap. As you see, I may be seeing end plates flying. There's certainly debris of some kind, but Coolman, a dream start, and it's been a dream event up to this point in Interlagos. Spiros takes a big lunge at Frank Deshawney, who is forced wide and has to try and regroup, heading out of turn number 9 now. He's down to 5th place from first. What a disastrous start, and it hasn't been a good start for Coolman's rivals either. Finlay trying to regroup, gets himself through on the inside of Fleddy. Coolman's teammate, of course, moves up in his 6th position, but Coolman, what a start. This is exactly the way he wanted this final round to kick off.
And it gets better for Coolman. Fraser has damaged Ake. He's got no front left end plate, and it was all at turn 1. I was riding on board with Fraser at the start, and there was a bit of a collision into turn 1 between cars ahead of him, and he just couldn't stop in time, or couldn't get out the way in time, and went straight into it, lost some of his wing, and Fraser really now on the back foot, and that poor qualifying has really ended up costing him, because it's meant he was unavoidably involved in those kinds of mid-pack incidents, and if he qualified 5-6 places higher, he wouldn't have been anywhere near that. So it's a disastrous start for Fraser, but an absolutely perfect start for Coolman. He would have dreamed about this waking up this morning.
And yes, he does now control the race from the front. Fraser is having to fight off Matisse from behind. Behind that, Swiatek and Moikuli are sparring through this middle sector. About tyre choices, there is something of a mix near the back of the field, but further up it's prevailing. It is usually the hard tyre that people have started on. The soft is in use, as you predicted, so it does seem to still be a strong race tyre. And two medium runners, Spyros and Swiatek, as Leonardo tracks Coolman, and Fraser will try and hang on with that front wing damage. The top 5 come over the line. Franek is trying to recover from that poor start. Lunges as there's a big concertina effect between the top 5 as they head in towards the first part of the Senate S. I'm not sure if any end plates have flying. I see Spicer looks to be okay. I think he was into the back of Leonardo, but he manages to recover, and the top 5 stay in formation. Spyros, the leading medium runner, he will be looking to try and charge up, and he resists Finley. We have seen great comeback drives from Finley this season before. He could still see his championship rival up the road. He chases into Ferradura, Spyros, but he's got some work to do in this race. But you can't really draw to any conclusions at this point, as Nick draws level with Finley, and Spyros runs right in front of him. So Finley now is in defence and attack, and Nick is through, gets one, and he's gonna get another, as Spyros runs right again. Through into 5th place goes Nick. What use he is making of those soft tyres. Finley did get through on Spyros, and Spyros is all over the road, then slipping back. Fleddy goes through into 7th place, and Spyros has a disaster of a 3rd lap, running in 5th, now runs into P8, and he did pick up damage by the looks of things, as Fraser runs into the back of him, but it looks as though Spyros, he is going to go to the pit lane, and damage, I imagine, picked up at turn number 1, which brings his contention up the front of this race to a close.
Wow, Finley must have had his heart in his mouth when he was 3 wide then, going into that tricky right-hander. I cannot believe they all got through that in one piece. Coolman being overtaken by Leonardo for the front in the meantime into turn 4, and Finley side by side with Fleddy further back as well. Fleddy trying to do his best to help out his teammate win this title and delay Finley as much as he can. He's doing a good job of it at the moment, Finley, though he's defending well and attacking when he can, and the important thing is that he's known when to back out so far in this first stint. There's been plenty of opportunities as Nick goes for another dive bomb up the inside of Franek to Shawnee this time, but it doesn't quite pay off into turn 9. They still wheel to wheel through turn 10, but somehow they both get away with it, and Franek stays ahead, but Nick is really trying to make the most of those soft tyres early on. But here comes Finley just behind. Fleddy's in the mix as well, but Finley right on the back of this soft tyre car. To the inside he goes. He's trying to make this move into P5, but he has to back out. Coolman retakes the lead further up, but he goes for it anyway down the inside, but it's not quite enough, and I don't think he really even intended to make that move. It was just the opportunity came and he saw the gap, but didn't quite pay off, and Finley stays P6, but will he stay P6 to turn 4? They go wheel to wheel again. Nick brakes very, very late, just about keeps it on the circuit and stops himself from going into the back of Franek. Spyros is out the race, but Finley round the outside, up the hill. Can he do this without no contact? They come together twice on the entry and exit, but somehow they're both facing the right way. Finley's still on the inside, and they're still going through the middle sector. They're still within DRS as well up front, but when is Finley gotta think it's time to let this go? Never is the answer, because he's finally through. Goodness me.
I have said in the preview to this race, EVE Finley, he is so fierce and unyielding, and that is a full example of that. He just refused to give in, and he gets 5th place away from Nick. It was a fierce fight, and I wonder if he did pick up a warning after that contact at turn 7. Nevertheless, he does run in P5, but he's got to work hard to stay with the top 4 because he's right on the edge of that DRS range, and he's fighting oversteer heading out of turn number 3. Watch that DRS, that rear wing does open for him, but he's right on the edge of that range. Nick still chasing him behind, and Nick has been so aggressive too, trying to make the use of those soft tyres, as you said. But Finley, he fell out of DRS range down the straight. He does not have the slipstream, and there's work to do here. Coolman, he must be monitoring that from behind, and he's going to push hard through this middle sector. Look behind, Spicer is all over Leonardo. They are running in such close proximity, these top 4, and a man in 5th place has work to do. In the meantime, I couldn't mention it, I imagine, because Nick and Finley were going to war, but Fraser did come in to fix that damage. He's put on a set of the medium tyres, and he is going to try and go as long as he can, but he is now, I imagine, praying for others' misfortune to bring him back into this race.
Yeah, definitely. I imagine the mediums will go a long way in this race, but 31 laps is quite the stint as Leonardo now down the inside of Coolman to retake the lead of this race with no problems at all. Fleddy getting past Nick as well, and Finley has once again got his championship rival's teammate in his mirrors. Slash as well makes the move on Nick around the outside of turn 1 and gets it done. Brilliant stuff. Maybe those soft tyres beginning to fade, or maybe just a bit of a chain reaction there, catching Nick out, and he's now down to P8, and Finley has caught back up, and he's gotten his ERS back up to an acceptable level as well, but that was very, very close to falling out of range there for the man in P2 in the championship, and well, nearly ended up regretting that huge battle with Nick, but it's worked out in the end, and he's still in this train, but he does seem to be struggling with oversteer on a lot of corner exits, Daka.
He may be overdriving. He's pushing so hard. Another moment of oversteer heading out of Pico de Pato, and he is pushed to the limit then, and Fleddy is honing in his mirrors. So EV Finley's got to watch himself here. He cannot throw it away with a mistake. There is still an awful long way to go in this stint, and the hard tyres will be put through their paces now. Leonardo leads, but Coolman is going to come past him, and Spicer now gets involved in the lead fight. Goes to the other side of Leonardo, gets in a 2nd place, nearly into the lead as he searches to that inside line of turn 1 and nearly clips the championship leader. But Coolman does reclaim the race lead ahead of NLR Spicer. How often have we seen Spicer in relays at the front of the field trading away that race lead? Fleddy is right on Finley and looks very threatening. Finley does not look comfortable out there at all. He has been involved in all the battles. He has pushed so hard, but he is having to work. He is 7/10 behind, which isn't panic stations just yet, but Fleddy, I wonder what kind of role he could play, because he looks very fast, very capable, and Finley is all over the road in a lot of those corners. So IRT Fleddy, what role may he play in this race as he chases down the man in P2 in the standings?
Finley is driving that car so hard, but he just looks so uncomfortable on so many corner exits. He got it back under control through turn 9 there, but once again, turn 11, a little bit of a rear lockup. It just compromises entry a tiny bit. It's not much. It's not enough to get him out of this battle by any means, but it can't be comfortable to be driving the car like this, having 2 or 3, or maybe even 4 or 5 moments every lap as we go to the front. Leonardo down the inside of Coolman, and Frank Jashorny as well, going down the inside of the championship leader, and there was contact, and there's no front right end plate on Frank Jashorny's car. Damage to him, and that's good news for Finley. It'll help him get back in this battle, and he has done, right behind these 4 now. But Frank Jashorny in the same situation as Fraser. Is he going to do the same thing and come in early to try and undercut these guys? Or is it too early and he's just got to ride this out? Look how wide he has to go through turn 7, and Finley has damage. Finley wasn't expecting the slow nature of Franek taking that corner with the wing damage, and now he's got no front left end plate of his own. Damage to 2 of the 3 title contenders, but Coolman sitting pretty in P3. He is a happy man right now.
EVE Finley, what disaster! And disaster too for the pole setter. In 4th and 5th, they will fall back. Fleddy is all over Finley. Will these guys dive to the pit lane? There's huge understeer, especially from Frantic to Shorny. Finley does not come in, neither does Frantic, as the lead will change hands again. And Finley will defend, but then go on to the attack as he draws level with Frantic. Goes super late on the brakes, trying to get through. Frantic trying to stay in there on the inside of turn number 2, loses momentum, and Fleddy now tries to follow through. Fleddy draws level with Frantic to Shorny in the slipstream of EVE Finley. They're still swapping places up the road as, oh my goodness, Fleddy nearly runs out of space as Frantic tries to fight back to Finley. Finley's having none of that as now Fleddy draws up alongside Frantic once again to the outside lane of Ferradura, and Frantic's understeer is going to play up here. He goes deep on the way in and Fleddy's going to get underneath him heading in towards turn number 8. There's more contact. Fleddy is going to get through in the end, squeezes Frantic out, moves up into position number 5 with a fierce fight. Finley, despite the damage, he is in P4 and he's not showing any signs of giving up that chase as he comes up towards Spicer. Maybe the damage isn't too severe. Leonardo takes the lead, which I almost neglected to mention because of the chaos unfolding behind. He is took off in the 2nd sector. Coolman back in 2nd place. You'd think this race has gone perfectly for him so far, but Finley is still there, still fighting, and he is just 7/10 of a second shy of his championship rival.
This is phenomenal stuff. We were wondering last week whether we'd have a situation where the other drivers sort of not wanting to get in the way of the championship battle and just sort of letting the 3 main protagonists through. I think we've had our answer many times over so far in these first 11 laps that is not the case, as Finley with wing damage, Fraser with wing damage, more contact up ahead of Finley as debris went flying, but I think all is okay. But so much happening already in the first third of this race, and Finley is hanging on. I will say that sort of front wing damage around this track isn't that bad, but it does cost you quite a lot in places like going up the hill through turns 6 and 7, and also places like turn 10, the one you're watching right now. It can have an effect, especially as the tyres get more worn, but elsewhere on the track, maybe the center S's as well, and turn 4 it can have a small effect, but it's not that big a deal, and Finley is proving that, but he still has to stay within a second. He still has to defend from Fleddy, who goes down the inside now into turn 1. Nothing Finley can do about that. He just has to sit and wait and hope that Fleddy will bring him towards the top 3 again, but it's actually in Fleddy's best interest here to try and hold Finley up. I do wonder if that will happen, as meanwhile Coolman has retaken the lead.
Coolman goes back in front. The championship swings his way. Once again, Napple has gone off, heading out of Jude Shao. He's had a nightmare race up to this point as CPI Napple regroups, but a long way down at the moment. This race has proven to be such a war of attrition already up to this point. So many cars picking up damage. It can be a consequence of cars running so closely together, but the drivers have not done themselves any favours, I would say, because the absolute ferocity of the wheel-to-wheel battles out on track. Leonardo gets a bit of a slide out of Bico to Pato, and Spicer is all over his rear wing. Almost nothing to separate those drivers. Coolman, though, taking off in front. I think he's happy to just go blow for blow with Leonardo and potentially Spicer as well. Not take too many risks and just try and bring this home at the moment, as Finley behind just tries to stay in touch with that damage. So Leonardo picking up that slipstream, and here comes Spicer too. They're going to go almost 3-way for the lead. Spicer does yield in the end. Coolman backs out from Leonardo. The slipstream is so strong down that straight that even if these guys... Oh, big snap from Spicer! Spicer heading out onto the curve of the Soul, losing places then and losing momentum. He was running up in the top 3. Now he is side by side with Slash for P5. A big error from Spicer. Holds it round the outside of turn 4. Manages to just about stay in front. Slash, I thought he might pick up damage. He doesn't in the end, but he remains in P6. But Spicer, how costly will that prove to be? He regresses in this race. He is now stuck behind a car that has front wing damage, and Finley, he still battles on and is in P4. Fleddy, what a charge it has been from him. He doesn't seem to be working in Coolman's favour too much, because he's closed up to him and is now pressuring the championship leader. He now runs P3. Finley in P4, hanging on decently, but Spicer, he looked to be, as he usually is, measuring the race very well, but that just shows how costly one error can be. On the throttle too soon, lights up the rear tyres and falls from P3 down to P5.
If we don't get a safety car in this race, a big decision for Finley here is not only when he pits, but whether he fixes the wing. Because if he fixes it, of course, he will be once again driving at full capacity. It'll feel a lot better, but he'll lose some 5 seconds in doing so. And in a race that's, well, in a 7-car train for P1, he will lose a ton of time and positions, and he'll really be on the back foot. But he's already on the back foot with half a front wing, so what do you do if you're Finley? Those are the sorts of decisions you have to make in these kinds of championship battles when things don't entirely go your way. And here he is in P4, being hounded by Spicer, who goes down the inside for turn 8, doesn't get away with it, but goodness gracious me, that was so close to a disaster. But Spicer locked the rears and had to yield in the end. Wow, this is... touch and go stuff. There is no way that Spicer is just going to let Finley go here just because he's in a championship battle. Spicer's had some bad luck of his own this season. He wants to win this race as much as anyone, and that mistake earlier on will have riled him up even more.
Yes, NLR, Spicer chasing Coolman, and Leonardo will swap the lead once again with Coolman going to the front. Spicer lunges Finley, heading into turn number 1, and gets through. Only caught the end of that, but he went all the way through, and in the end, Finley had to get out of it. Was there contact? It was hard to see, but Spicer does reclaim one of the possessions he lost. Now runs NP4, and now Finley has Slash to worry about from behind, but he lost a lot of momentum, did Finley, so he's going to have to work hard now in this middle sector, which of course is a struggle for him. Fleddy actually pulls out of the slipstream of Leonardo, so he's looking to try and move forward, and Fleddy of course so cruelly denied the win last time out in Qatar when it looked like he had the race all wrapped up with just a matter of laps to go. Remember, safety cars can change things, especially in such a division as this, but Coolman does lead. We are approaching half distance, and actually approaching around about the time you'd expect the first pit stops to happen. They should be around about lap 20, I would think, maybe even slightly earlier. But Coolman leading them along, still that 7-car train. There's no sign of it settling down. Fleddy looks ultra aggressive then as he runs just over a tenth shy of Leonardo. Leonardo gets the slipstream on Coolman, and Coolman's going to lose out here. Here comes Fleddy. Fleddy pulls out the slipstream, gets alongside Leonardo, breaks very late, and leads. IRT Fleddy goes to the front. There's no team orders here. He gets a snap of oversteer. Leonardo nearly runs into the back of him as he headed to the curve of the soul, and Coolman is in that slipstream. Leonardo's going to try and reclaim that race lead, and is going to do so. So through goes Leonardo from Fleddy. So Leonardo takes back the lead, but Fleddy, well, if there was any question as to whether he was acting for his teammate, I think that's just been answered. He went all the way through, 3 wide, took the lead briefly away from Leonardo, and Fleddy looks like he's racing purely in his own interest and charging after that race win that he missed out on last week.
Yeah, Coolman all too happy to yield there and give that up as early as possible. He knows he's in a good position here. He just needs to finish ahead of his rivals. It doesn't matter where. As long as he finishes ahead, that's game over. And he's there at the moment, P3, but in this train, ahead of Finley, who has damage. I don't know if Coolman will know that Finley has damage. If he's in a party with Fleddy, maybe he's found out. But if they were in a party, you would have thought Fleddy wouldn't have done that. So who knows? They head down towards turn 1, a lot of cars moving to the inside again. Spicer into the back of Coolman into turn 1, but they've gotten away with it just about. And well, Coolman will have been hoping once he saw misfortune for his rivals and a great start for himself, he would have been hoping that this would be more of a plain sailing race, but the drivers around him who aren't in the title battle are making sure that is far from the case.
I was going to ask, after Finley got that damage, does Coolman have one hand on that championship trophy? But seeing all this racing, I don't think anything is a certainty at this moment. Coolman is having to fight tooth and nail here, and you saw Finley almost into the back of Spicer. He's still pressing, and he's holding up fairly well. Franek at the back, also of course with damage, hanging on to the coattails of this train. For Finley, for me it's a no-brainer. I don't think you change the front wing. If you do, I think you're just conceding conceding. You're out of the train, and quite frankly, I cannot see him getting back in that case, unless he has monstrous race pace to utilise. So we'll see, but I don't expect the pit stop to come, and a very early stop from Leonardo, who has been trading the lead all night, goes in on lap 17 of this race. That is earlier than I anticipated. Finley is round the outside of Spicer, goes bold and brave, but Spicer does not yield. He holds on to P3 for the time being then. DRS open for the pair of them, but Finley is not going to have a way through, but he did try. He did lunge. In the end, he was denied that third place on the road, but it shows even with that wing damage, he has the pace to go on the offensive, and that must mean that Coolman's chances are not a certainty. He is going to have to fight this one all the way through, because Finley, despite that damage, he is still fighting, and he is still very competitive in this lead group.
Yeah, Finley and Franek have adjusted so well to this wing damage. It takes a few laps, but you just get used to it. You just adjust your driving style just a little bit, just to make sure your car gets through the corners while losing as little time as possible. You're still going to lose time, but if you adapt a little bit in terms of the way you drive, then you can minimize the damage, as it were. But Fleddy down towards turn one, again chased by Coolman, who goes round the outside, and that's a simple move to retake the lead of this Grand Prix, but he's still got Fleddy and Spicer right behind, and of course Finley, nonetheless with that wing damage, is still a huge threat to this race lead. And well, you just have to imagine how this race would be right now if Finley didn't have wing damage, whether he'd be fighting towards P1 already. But talking of P1, Fleddy retakes it again down towards turn 4. No bother there between himself and the championship leader, as we've got our second retirement. Moikuli and Nick both out in the pit lane, so we're down to 12, but still plenty of time to go in this race as we hit the halfway stage.
Yeah, and I'm keeping an eye on Leonardo, because he is lapping faster than these guys in the lead, I do believe, who came in rather early. He's going to do more laps on the mediums than he did on the hards, which is a little bit strange. We're on lap 19, as you said, half distance, and I would expect stops on this lap from the lead group. Franek is starting to be at his limit to hang on. It looks as though Fleddy, they're going to stay out up at the front. Finley's still out there. Coolman is going to take the lead back from Fleddy. Can Spicer follow through? He is going to try. He goes to the inside of turn number 1, gets alongside Fleddy. Fleddy holds on around the outside, and there's no way through for Spicer just yet. Will he have another bite at the cherry as he heads up towards turn number 4? Looks like that's not going to be the case. He is going to remain there in position number 4. There's a slow car. You can see that's the cars of Nick and Moikuli, who have pulled off to the side. Thankfully didn't interfere with the race, but that could be a little bit sketchy. But this train's still running through, but they are, as it stands right now, I think going to be detached from Leonardo. I think Leonardo is going to undercut these guys, probably break the DRS, I'd say, at this stage. So Leonardo, he decided to come in early. It's an awful long way to go on the mediums. They should make the end, but what kind of state will they be at the end? He runs in P8, and the question is, where will these guys be relative to him when they pit, which should be very, very soon?
Yeah, Leonardo's gaining well over a second a lap on these guys as Finley nearly bins it out of turn 11, just about keeps it going, but that was very, very dicey for him. And into the pits all of the top 4 come. Are there going to be any pit lane problems here between them?
Fleddy.
Anyone getting stuck behind each other? I think Slash is the only one to stay out, so he stays at the front, but I think they've all gone away without a double stack. Yeah, I think they've all been lucky on this occasion, so that is good to see. We don't want this championship getting decided like that. But Leonardo comes through turn 1, and he is well ahead. But how far ahead is the question? He's only got 3 laps older mediums. I think this is a brilliant play from Leonardo, to be honest. He's come out, and he's well ahead. I think just over 2 seconds ahead. Out they come now. Coolman, 3.5 seconds it is, actually. And this is huge for Leonardo as he tries to get this race win today. Fleddy now makes his chances even less as he gets himself a track limits penalty.
And he picked up wing damage on the pit entry. He ran into the back of Coolman. That you can see there on that left-handed end plate. IRT Fleddy has damage, so that is going to set him back no end, and he is rapidly falling back from his teammate with the penalty just to boot. That's him trying to adjust to the lack of an end plate. Oh my, how many cars are we seeing with damage? And Coolman, he is grabbing this opportunity with both hands, and he is shot away from the train. 1.2 seconds clear of IRT Fleddy. Slash and Chris Rebel pit off of the hards on to the mediums. That is going to pretty much do it for pit stops in this race, and Leonardo now does lead. Spicer knows he needs to get on the offensive. He does so. He clears Fleddy and is off after Coolman. Fleddy slipping back now with that time penalty, with that damage. Finley Sviadek, who pitted earlier off the mediums on the hards now, he is in this train, but quite frankly does not have much defense against these guys with those older hard tyres, and he slips back quickly from Finley. Slash is going to try and get to him. He's just come out of the pits, but with Coolman, he nearly broke away, but Spicer managed to use that DRS to his advantage, moving up. But Fleddy now, another driver to add to the list of those with damage, and after such a hard charging first in, RT Fleddy's race now is going to be much more of an uphill task.
Yeah, Fleddy, architect of his own downfall for 2 weeks in a row now, with that 3-second time penalty and the damage. And down in P4, he has got, well, he's going to need a lot of luck now to be able to win this race. But yeah, Finley making an important move there, getting past Viadek on the previous lap and getting up to 5th place and staying in this train. And like you say, Coolman almost managed to get himself out of range. He did briefly, but really he needed to drop this train behind faster than Red Bull dropped Daniel Ricciardo, and that would take some doing. So he is now getting caught by Spicer down towards turn 4. Spicer's going to have the DRS. He might be able to make the move here, but actually he didn't enable the DRS until halfway down the straight, really, so he wasn't intending to do anything there. He wants to wait for turn 1, where it is a more sensible place to make the move. Fleddy is starting to get used to the wing damage and keeping track of these guys, but that penalty is really going to hurt him.
Indeed, it will. He runs in position number 4. The gap to Leonardo doesn't seem to be changing much. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's see what Coolman's pace will be. I imagine Spicer is going to be swapping with him. I think the priority for Spicer is going to be working with Coolman and trying to close that gap down to Leonardo and bring himself into the fight for the win. Finley hounding Fleddy. These two have been in the wars all throughout this race. Finley taking so much more of the curb, heading through that final real corner at Junshao. If he can get through, he can finally get up towards his championship rival. Spicer is going to go through on Coolman, and Coolman actually obliges, goes off the racing line to give Spicer the cleanest run through. Fleddy is looking in behind, and round the outside goes Finley, but he runs into the side pod of Fleddy, and he loses ground. I don't know if he picked up any more damages on the end plate he already lost. He went all in late on the brakes, but just maybe turns in a little bit too early, catches Fleddy on the way through, and what was looking like an offensive move to finally draw himself up behind his rival. In the end, it's a setback, and he's going to have to work hard to stay with the 3 drivers in front on this lap now.
Yeah, that could have been very, very costly for Finley. He recovered just in time, I think, and will stay in this train. But, yeah, he's desperate to make these moves. He knows he has to put the pressure on Coolman. I'm not sure if he knows exactly what the situation is. Oh, who's that around?
Oh, dear!
Ahead, it's Spicer, and Finley's gone straight into him. That's so unlucky for the man in P2 in the championship. There was nothing he could do. Spicer just lost the rears, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there was contact with Coolman up ahead, but I may have missed it, and now that might well be even more. It is even more damage to Finley. He's into the pits, and he now needs a safety car to keep himself in this championship battle. That is desperately unlucky, but it's a dream for NLR Coolman, who just needs to keep it on the road, and if it's green flags to the end now, he should be able to secure this title.
One hand on the trophy, I can say that now. NLR Coolman with both of his rivals coming undone. Finlay will change the front wing. He will emerge from the pit lane, but he will be so far back now, and surely without a safety car is going to be out of contention. Fraser was squeezed wide by Matisse as he went on the way past, loses the rear and has to gather it up. Fraser, it's been a nightmare evening for him. He now runs in position number 10 on the road and himself looks to be pretty much out of contention, barring major misfortune. Coolman now leading away. The man chasing him, Fleddy, has wing damage and the penalty. Slash and Spicer, after making yet another mistake, we do believe again. I didn't catch the start of it either, but he now runs NP5. He's got to try and swap turns with Slash if he wants to bring himself back into play. Slash as well tried to take his first win of the season. Spicer goes through into P4. Franek does move past Viaduct behind, but way down in P number 6 now, detached from the train. He didn't change the front wing. He's still missing that end plate, and without another car to drag him along, looks to be a major task for him. So Coolman now moving ahead in P2 comfortably at the moment, and well, we look at that mistake from Spicer, which Finlay was caught up in, to be the definitive moment of this season. NLR Coolman now, for all intents and purposes, just has to bring the car home.
Yeah, and he was lapping 3/10 faster than Leonardo on that previous run, and I do wonder if he can have a dream ending to this season by not only winning the title but winning it with a race win as well. Leonardo played the strategy perfectly, I think, pitting so much earlier than everyone else, but he is going to be vulnerable towards the end if they catch him, and Coolman is doing exactly that at the moment, using the race pace that he's got, and that is another 4/10 he's taken out of the race leader. And Fleddy is going to be up there with him as well, but with the wing damage and the extra 3 seconds on his race time, it is still going to be a big uphill struggle for IRT Fleddy. But I'm sure the Mercedes duo will be hoping for a double podium to win both championships in the final race. What a dream ending it would be for them, but Spicer well within that 3-second range, as is Slash. So Fleddy, I think, is going to need a little bit more good fortune coming his way in these last 10 laps.
He runs 4/10 behind Coolman. Spicer is catching these guys, I do believe, with Slash using a lot of overtake button and trying to cut that gap back down. Spicer, well, it has been a race of that swinging pendulum from his point of view, but he's still in the hunt if he could just close that last half a second up towards Fleddy, of course. Very much easier said than done. I think at the rate Coolman is catching Leonardo, he should peg him before the end of the race. May he close it out with a win, as you said, but of course the championship has to be priority number 1. 2.4 seconds is the gap between the two leaders. Spicer inevitably loses that little bit of time down the straight to Fleddy. Of course, no slipstream, or not much slipstream, and certainly no DRS to help him out. Slash is going to come up from behind him and take over the pacemaking duties, of that group behind, but not the most efficient move. He had to take an inside line, couldn't quite open up turn 4 quite as much as he wanted to, so he is going to have to try and regroup. 1.3 seconds to Fleddy up in front. Might be possible to bridge in this second sector if Fleddy does suffer further with that damage. He can keep up with Coolman, but this middle sector is still a struggle for him, and it looks as though Slash and Spicer are going to bring themselves back into play. So Leonardo is being brought back by Coolman, and Coolman and Fleddy now are back in range of Slash and Spicer. This fight for the win is not over yet.
Absolutely isn't, and Slash has had a fantastic race so far. He's only had 2 podiums this season. They've both been P3, so he'll be looking to do 1 or even 2 better today. And well, he knows that Coolman will be more interested in securing the championship, so if the time comes, he knows Coolman will yield faster than anyone else.
Oh, Leonardo!
And, Leonardo, 3-second time penalty, and that is huge news, and suddenly Coolman is in the net race lead as a result. Slash as well is nearly in a net P2. He's just a few tenths away, but this is going to be a very close run to the finish if Slash can stay in the DRS of these two up ahead. And well, with Fleddy's wing damage, he should be able to comfortably do so. So This is a really big battle for the win now, and it's not even going to be on track with Leonardo, who's going to be kicking himself with that penalty. He was just 7 laps away, as long as they didn't catch him, but now it is surely game over.
It seems that way unless we see mistakes from the rest of the drivers in this train. We shall see. Finley picks up a penalty just to rub salt into the wounds. He is on fresher tyres and doing all he can, but he is so far adrift of the rest, and that time penalty means even if the race comes together, it's going to make things so much more difficult for the race winner last time out in Qatar. Fleddy slipstreams Coolman, has no interest in going for that race lead at the moment. He's trying to save that battery in behind. Slash is now well and truly in range, and Spicer too. Coolman chipped another couple of tenths off the lap, but it looks as though Fleddy is going to go in front now. Blips that overtake button, goes all through and takes away that second position. He still has very strong pace with that wing damage, but you would imagine going up to the front just before this second sector may stall this train. It may only be by a few tenths, but it may be something of a relief for Leonardo, because Fleddy, he does have fresher tyres, but he certainly is not going to be catching nearly as quickly as Coolman was through these corners.
Yeah, definitely not, and you can already see that gap increasing, although it came down a little bit there. I think maybe Leonardo's starting to struggle on those little bit older tyres. Fraser bags the first.
Spicer's backwards!
Consolation points, and Spicer is facing the wrong way, like you say, and he's all the way down to P7, and well, he's had 2 poles in the last 2 rounds before this one, and he was so close to pole today, but all 3 of those times it hasn't ended up working out for him, and today just 3 mistakes of his own making, and it's all over for him, you would have to think, unless we get very late drama in this championship finale. Coolman retakes P2 and is now only 1.4 seconds away from Leonardo, and he might even take this on track. He might not even need the penalty, but this is brilliant news for Slash, who is looking for his best result this season, and what a time to do it.
Currently in a net P2 and right behind IRT Fleddy. Can he find a way through in this middle sector? At the moment, he's a little bit locked, unable to really interfere much in that lead fight, but Fleddy is going to understeer through these corners here through Magulio, and can Slash find a way through? It doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment, but he has nearly a full battery, so he does have attacking potential with just over 5 laps to go in this Brazilian Grand Prix, and Coolman is almost there. He's just 2 tenths from DRS range of the race leader, and can he cap off what is almost sure to be a title winning drive with a win? He's now just 1 tenth away. He's had to burn a lot of battery, but I think after this Senna S, assuming he does nail it, he will. The detection point is on the apex of turn number 2 as they head through turns 1 and 2. Now Leonardo runs a little bit deep. It maybe Coolman wasn't quite there. Leonardo did get a good run to the first 2 corners, so Coolman not in DRS just yet, but surely on this lap you would think he would hone in on Leonardo. Fleddy behind. Slash maybe the biggest threat to Coolman's win at this stage, but NLR Coolman, what a glorious drive it has been up to this point. He is nearly there, and Leonardo, I think his days at the front of this race look to be numbered at this point.
Coolman has made a name for himself this season by profiting off of the problems of others. He has been fast, don't get me wrong. He's been right up there in pace almost every week, but pretty much every time something bad has happened to his rivals, Coolman has been there to pick up the pieces. Jeddah, the most notable example, but there's been plenty more. And once again today, Finley and Fraser both with damage, Fraser due to not qualifying as well as he could usually do, and that turned out to be lethal in the end for his championship chances. And Finley as well got caught up in the mid-pack of this, the middle range of this top pack, I suppose. And now Coolman right behind Leonardo to take P1 back on track. He's going down towards turn 4. I don't think he'll take it here. He will wait for turn 1, but Coolman is just a few laps away now, as actually Leonardo lets him go. Not interested in battling with the championship leader, and Coolman now leads the Brazilian Grand Prix with just 3.5 laps left to go before he can get both hands on that championship trophy.
He now leads from Leonardo, Fleddy and Slash. Still a four-way fight for the lead. Slash, the only other driver without a time penalty. And he nearly had a run at Fleddy uphill towards Ferradura, but couldn't quite get through. The man in front of him has damage. The man even further in front has much older tyres. But can Slash, chasing a race victory, he does tend to race a bit more cautiously, tries to pick up the pieces. He gets a good run out of the final corner. He has so much battery, and now he's deploying it. He goes side by side and now through on IRT Fleddy. He is honing in on the race leaders now. Leonardo, the next man up the road. Can Slash make it happen? Of course, he has nothing to lose. Coolman is just going to be focusing on bringing that car home. He would like to win, but it's not priority number one. He's going to go on the overtake button again and draws level with Leonardo. Can he get through into turn 4? Leonardo with that slipstream of Coolman, but he runs out of space, and on the inside Slash is going to go to P2, or does he?
No.
They drag each other off the circuit, and Slash goes around 3 laps from the end, an agonising end to his hunt for the race victory. Go running off with Leonardo, gathers back up the car, absolutely lights up the rear tyres, but Slash, oh what heartbreak. Leonardo gets caught up in that as well, gets another penalty for his own troubles, and he falls behind Fleddy. Now Coolman out in front. It feels as though in this race all of his rivals for both the win and the championship have just imploded, and now he is left with a man who has a penalty and has damage behind him. NLR Coolman, he has just kept his head when others have lost theirs, and with just 2 laps to go now, both the win and the championship look to be in order. NLR Coolman, 2 to go, and he looks headed for a dream result here at Interlagos.
He is living up to his name, keeping a cool head while everyone else loses theirs. He now leads from Fleddy, who has a time penalty, and Leonardo has one behind him as well. Coolman with no penalty to speak of, no damage at all. Fleddy with, well, both of those things, and Coolman is just a few more minutes away from being crowned champion of PSF3. Zviadek is not far behind Leonardo either. He might be able to get himself on the podium because Leonardo has 6 seconds of penalties now, and well, are just absolutely gutting for Slash. He so deserved that podium today. He's driven absolutely fantastically, but it's all gone wrong just a few laps from the end, and well, he'll not be a happy bunny in that cockpit. But like you say, yeah, I mean, he has just been NLR Moses today. Everything is parted for him in front, and the good qualifying, I'll tell you what, Dake, that is what has been a major factor in Coolman leading this race now as we head on to the final lap. Being further up the grid has allowed him to stay out of all of the big midfield battles and all of the incidents that have happened further down the grid, and that is one of the main reasons why he is now where he is, and why Finley and Fraser are down where they are.
My NLR Coolman, he has stayed up front this entire race. I believe he's been no lower than 3rd in terms of net possession. He has done absolutely everything right under such high pressure. He took the lead in this championship after the first round, after he spectacularly hunted down Leonardo and Slash in the last few laps. He took the win then. He has only briefly ceded the championship lead since then. In the second half of this season, he has not looked back. He came under pressure from Finley and from Fraser, but where those two have fallen, this man will rise. NLR Coolman wins the race and the championship in PSF3 Season 37. One man rises above the rest. NLR Coolman is your driver's champion, and Mercedes will win the Constructors 2 with a 1-2 finish for their drivers. Fleddy in P2 in the end, soldiering on with that damage. Leonardo does in the end hold on to 3rd, but what could have been for him, Zviadek off strategy, he does in the end come through in position number 4 from Franek, and Chris Rebel in P6. Slash, heartbreak for him, he finishes 7th from Spicer 8th. What could have been for him as well. Finley will wrap up 2nd in the standings, and 3rd will go the way of Fraser, but neither driver will be pleased with the way this final round has unfolded. NLR Coolman, He has been pressured throughout the second half of this season. Finlay and especially Fraser have chipped away at that lead all throughout the last couple of rounds. Remember, it was those two drivers that finished 1-2 in the previous race in Qatar. But Coolman, well, he may have been under pressure at times tonight. He has never looked like relinquishing that championship. And in the end, I would say a result that drive certainly deserved.
Absolutely. What an incredible drive under so much pressure and a championship finale and qualifying as well. What a brilliant pressure lap to get himself further up. Everyone faltered in the last part of qualifying, but being up there really, really helped him out. And he has taken the race win. He's made the most of it. What a drive. What a season for our new PSF3 champion. I'll let you run through the results, Daka, but wow.
Yep, Coolman takes the win away from Fleddy in second place. Two drivers who represent the Mercedes constructor on top from Leonardo in third. Zviadek does take fourth place from Frantic Jashorny, the pole setter. There are so many drivers who must be asking, that race could have been mine. Chris Rebel sixth, good race for him from Slash, Spicer, Finlay and Fraser rounds out the top 10. Matisse there after that. Spicer took the fastest lap of the race. Pole position went to Frantic, but the win and the title goes to NLR Coolman. 4 race victories, 8 podiums in the actually no correction 7 podiums in the season, and if my maths is right, 107 points I should say to cap off his campaign. NLR Coolman is your championship. As you said, he lived up to the name. I said at the very start of the stream, he is clinical, opportunistic, and cuts the image of a championship driver, and that's exactly what we saw today.
Yep, couldn't agree more. What a brilliant drive. And well, if anyone ever asks you to define what a championship drive is, you have to point to NLR Coolman today. That was unbelievable. So much pressure, so many drivers sending it up the inside, going for the race win. Everyone else faltered and he remained, and in the end came across the line in first place with no one able to touch him. But wow, what an amazing season it's been. And commiserations as well to Finlay and Fraser. Fraser, who's been garnered a reputation over the last month or two of getting race wins no matter what, no matter where he starts, no matter where he is. Before the last few laps, he somehow managed to get through and take the win. In the end today, when it really counted, his charge for the win ended before, well, at turn 1 basically, and that was it. No safety car to save him, and same for Finlay. And they both just caught up in the middle of the pack. And you don't usually think of qualifying as being a particularly important factor at Brazil. We were talking about it last week at Qatar, how important qualifying can be around there. But at Brazil, you can usually gain from down in the dumps. And several drivers certainly did that. But in the end today, it was all about who didn't get caught up in all of those mid-pack incidents. And the only one to do it was the man who qualified near the front. NLR Coolman took the title.
Absolutely. Well done to NLR Coolman. Well done to Fleddy as well. He did join very late in the season, but has had a great run of results, it must be said. Didn't get the race when he was after, but he does leave with the Constructors' title alongside Mercedes. I'm not sure about the calculations on that. I'm a bit exhausted, so I maybe will neglect to do that. But Mercedes, we can say with 100% certainty, have won the Constructors' Championship in the end. A perfect season for that constructor. Wow. I think that will just about do it then for PSF3 Season 37. I will give a mention should have done this earlier. For our sponsors, I think I was caught up in the moment. PSGL sponsored by GT Omega. A link to their site is in the video description. If you decide to purchase any of their delightful products, then you can use the code PSGL at checkout for a 5% discount. Additionally, we are partnered with Sim Racing Centre, or SRC for short. If you're in need of setups or coaching on the F1 game, then SRC is just the place to look. They are also in the video description, and there is a 10% discount on all their products at checkout using the code PSGL. Well, Ghost, that does bring season 37 of PSF3 to a close. And a word from myself to you, I must say, we're both very new to PSGL. It's been a learning experience for both of us, and I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing the box with you. I hope we're able to do this again in the future. I must say, you are so talented, and I've absolutely loved every moment of being alongside you in the box, and I'm glad that we were able to present PSF3 Season 37 to everyone watching us go. I can barely speak. Just watching the races that's been so enthralling throughout this season.
Oh, right back at you, Daka. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's an absolute privilege to be here at PSGL to commentate on such an important division here in PSF3. All the focus is usually on the top F1 divisions in both PS and PC, but I think it's been clear over the last few months, very clear to see that that doesn't mean that is where the action always is. PSF3 has been absolutely phenomenal, at least since I started commentating. I can't speak for the first half of the season, but since I came in at, I think, round five or six, it has been phenomenal racing every single week. And it's been a pleasure to share the box with you, Daka. I'm very glad for us to have met doing this. And like you, I hope it continues in the future. And right back at you with all the compliments. Very, very talented commentator, and a privilege to share the box with you.
Oh, I'm going to cry. There is quite a lot of emotion out there, I do imagine. And of course, far more to come from PSGL. I believe last week, Season 38 was announced, and that is just, I think, a few weeks away. So there isn't much time for respite, and we are going to get right back to it very soon. Yes, the next season is out, and that will be from October 21st, the Australian Grand Prix. That is going to come in just 3 weeks' time. So, don't mess around too much. We are gonna get right back to beautiful PSGL action. But I think for this race and for this season, that is just about everything said and done. Thank you all so much for watching. It's my first season in PSGL, and I've thoroughly enjoyed every second of it. I cannot stress that enough, and I look forward to the future. Do not look away. We have a new season on the horizon very, very soon. But I think for myself and Ghost, it is goodbye for now, and until next season, we'll see you later.